Welcome to the vault. I see you finally got the courage to unlock it. Sit back. Enjoy. It's all for fun. But don't forget to lock the door on your way out. You never know what may be following you. Booger Valley, Part 2. Well, I went back inside, finished getting ready so we could all head to town. Came back outside. Mama and Papa were already at the truck waiting on me. So I climbed in. Papa started the truck and we headed down the driveway. Now you need to understand they lived a good 20 to 25 miles from town. So that gave us a good while to talk. Papa, why are we going to town? Who do you think can help us there? There's an old timer that lives in the old folks home now. He used to work on my daddy's place years ago, back when they had problems with these creatures before. I figured that would be a good place to start. Don't know what exactly he can tell us, but that's where I plan on starting. Hell, he may not even remember nothing. Then again, who could ever forget these creatures? Papa didn't say nothing else the rest of the ride to town. We finally got to town, and Papa headed straight for the old folks' home. Told me and Mama, I'll be back in just a minute. I want to see if this old timer's even still here. Hell, he may done kicked the bucket by now. So me and Nana just sit there. She was just staring off into space, like she had a million things on her mind. Wasn't saying anything. Papa wasn't gone long. He'd come back out to the truck, open the door and sit down. Well, he's living with some of his kinfolks in town here. The nurse gave me the address. Nana, we're gonna carry you and drop you off at Miss King's house so y'all can start y'all's little hen party. Now, what did I tell you about that before? I smirked as Papa backed up, headed down the road. We pulled up at Miss King's house just a few minutes later. I opened the door to let my Nana out. As she got out of the truck, my grandfather got out, walked around. They stood in front of each other. He hugged her, gave her a kiss on the forehead. She looked at him with a slight tear in her eye. He said, "Now, woman, we're going to get through this, just like we do everything else." She said, "Yes, but." He said, "No buts. We're going to get through this. I'll be back a little later to check on you. Come on, boy, let's go." I climbed back in the truck. Papa climbed back in. We started down the road. He kept looking at the piece of paper and looking at the street signs. Here, I think it's here. Yeah, this is it. Hold on a second, boy. Let me go in here and see if this man's here. My Papa was gone for just a few minutes. Then him and another elderly gentleman he had by the arm, he was helping out on the front porch, came back outside. He motioned for me to come here. So I got out of the truck, walked up to the porch. "Yes, sir." "Boy, this is Mr. Ward. He's the man I was telling you about. He used to work on my father's place." "How you doing, Mr. Ward?" "Son, I'm just happy to be alive. Every day's a blessing. How about you?" "Well, sir, to be honest, not that good. We've had some problems out at the old home place. Think you would understand what I'm talking about. How could an old man like me help you with any problems you're having now? I hadn't farmed in probably 15 years, boy. This don't have anything to do with farming. This has to do with Booger Valley." That was a name this old man wished he had never heard again. And I say this because the look on that man's face just drained. All the color went out. "Boy, why in the hell would you ever mention that place to me again? You know what happened. You know what we went through." "Yes, sir, I do. And they're back. That's why I'm here. I need answers. Boy, you need more than answers. You need God's help. Well, we've been praying, and it don't seem like that's doing very much good. So that's why I came here. We need to know exactly what y'all did to make these things stay in Booger Hollow. Stop coming out. Stop killing all the livestock. Stop destroying everything. What did y'all do? That's the whole thing, boy. We didn't make them do anything. No matter what we did or what we tried. Bigger fences, put your livestock in your barns. If they wanted it, they were going to get it. And wasn't nothing stopping them. It's unbelievable how strong these creatures are, even the small ones, and how fast they can move. They're like the wind. And the worst thing you can do is try to hunt them. Trust me, we tried. 10 men went into the woods. 3 came out. As he said that, a tear formed in his eye, rolled down his cheek. You reached up and wiped it away. Son, that's why I left that place the day that happened. Swore I'd never go there again. If you know what's good for you, you'll pack up your stuff while you still got something left and get the hell away from there and never go back. You know I can't do that. That was my daddy's place. Yes, and he wouldn't want you to die there. Well, sir, that's just not an option. Boy, something had to stir them up. The last time they did this, it was because we had let people start hunting on that land, and they had run dogs through there. That's what we came to believe started it up the first time. I don't know how much other help I can be to you. I'm just an old man. Wish to hell I'd never heard of these things. Wish to hell I hadn't seen what I'd seen. Well, thank you, sir. Sorry it bothered you as long as we did. No bother, son. One more thing. You make sure you stay out of them woods at night. When it starts to get dark, that's when they're at their most dangerous. I mean it now, you hear? Yes, sir. Well, Mr. Ward, we're fixing to get out of here. We appreciate all you told us and all the help you've given us. Well, I don't know about any help, but that's what I know. Yes, sir. Well, like I said, we're fixing to get out of here. We got some other business to attend to. You just be careful, boy, and watch that little one there, because they'll snatch him up before you know it. Yes, sir. So we headed to the truck. Both got in. Just sit there for a few seconds. I didn't know what to say. I looked at Papa, and he just had this 100-yard stare going. He said, I know. So he reaches up, hits the key, starts the truck, and we take off. Papa, where we going? He's still not talking. Just got that look. So I just sit there. He's heading back now the opposite direction we came. Then takes and turns down a side street that I'd never been down before. Where does this go, Papa? To the paper mill, boy. Why are we going to the paper mill? Think we just might find us some answers there. We don't go very far down this road. Come to a big, nice new building. Wow, Papa, this is nice. Yeah, they come in and built this, and then they started buying up a bunch of property all around. They bought the property that joins the back of ours. Oh, so he pulls right up to the front, cuts the truck off, gets out, says, come on, boy, let's see what kind of answers we can find out here. Yes, sir. He goes right up to the front door, opens it up. It's a big, nice office. There's a little lady sitting at one of the desks. He goes, is Mr. Lancaster around? Sir, I think so. Do you have an appointment? No. Tell him Mr. Harold's here. Yes, sir. Hold on one second. She wasn't gone long. Mr. Harold, Mr. Lancaster will see you now. Come on back. So we headed back to the back office. And when we got there, boy, it was huge. Had deer heads hanging everywhere. Just real fancy. Had a big nice desk and 2 big leather chairs. There was a heavy-set man sitting on the opposite side of the desk. Stood up, with a big grin on his face. Mr. Harold, nice to see you again. Come, sit down. Who's this you got with you? This is my grandson. Come, sit down. What can I do for you today, Mr. Harold? Well, Mr. Lancaster, Come to talk to you about that land that joins mine. Oh, well, I guess you heard. Heard? Heard what? About the incident that happened. No, I hadn't heard anything about any kind of incident. What kind of incident are we talking about? Well, I've let my nephew come down with some of his friends. They wanted to do some deer hunting back there. Well, they had carried my brother's camper back down in there, got everything set up, then the next morning got up and went hunting. But deer aren't even in season now. So you mean to tell me they were poaching? Now wait a minute, Mr. Harold. I understand what they did was wrong. My nephew's in the hospital right now, seriously injured. Hospital? What, did he get shot by one of the other boys? No. One of them that morning had shot a deer, and it ran off down in this big hollow, and they went in after it. They tracked this deer for a pretty good ways, till they come to a big blood pool, but there wasn't any deer. My nephew told me they heard something rustling in the bushes, and they thought it might have been the deer. So one of them went in to get it out. They heard a scream, a roar, and then a gunshot. He said he had never heard a sound like this before. He said his friend come climbing back out of the bushes, saying there's a bear in there, there's a bear in there. Then, that's when the story gets kind of crazy. What do you mean gets kind of crazy? Well, I honestly think it was the drugs that they gave him at the hospital. Well, what was the story? He said whatever it was in the bushes started making this odd noise, and as soon as it did that, they heard another roar from a deep down in the valley, and it sounded like a herd of elephants coming at them. That's when they got scared, and they decided they didn't want to find the deer anymore. So they take back off up towards the camper, running as fast as they can, he said. They get to the camper, bust in the door, close the door, and the whole time they're running, they can hear this sound coming and coming and coming, getting closer to the camper. He said they could hear something that sounded heavy walking around the camper. And then, from down where they had been with the deer, they heard this great, humongous, gut-wrenching howl. And then, that's when something started beating on the side of the camper. Now, he never saw what it was, but after a few days, we hadn't heard from none of the boys. So I drove down there to see what was going on. When I drove up, I found the camper almost smashed flat. I don't see how they survived being in there. I started going around hollering her name, and that's when I heard a faint muffled moan coming from the smashed camper. That's when I realized the boys are in there. Now what I can't figure out is how those three boys let somebody pull a piece of equipment up there and smash that camper down flat like that while they were in there, and they didn't try to get out. It's just puzzling. How do you know it was a piece of equipment? Did you see any marks? No, that's the strange thing. When exactly did this take place? Oh, about a week ago. That explains it. That explains what? Well, they didn't run into no bear, and didn't no piece of equipment tear that camper up. That was those creatures that lived down in that hollow where they were. And I think they shot one of them. Creatures? The hell are you talking about? You sound like a crazy man. Well, you may not believe me, but we've had problems with this before. About 50 years ago, my dad, several of his neighbors, lost a lot of livestock over it. And here lately, we've lost a bunch. Well, do me a favor. Don't send nobody else out there. We're the ones that are going to have to deal with this, not y'all. Well, we'll help. We don't need your help. Y'all think y'all helped enough. Come on, boy. Let's go. We get up, leave, get back out to the truck. My granddaddy is mad. That explains a lot. They killed one of these things, and they're out for revenge. What are we going to do now, Grandpa? Boy, I don't know. Let's go get your grandma. Yes, sir. So he starts the truck, and we head out. On the way to pick up my grandmother, we decided to stop by the local hardware store, pick up some more ammunition. My grandfather thought we just might need it. We get back to Miss King's house, pick up my grandmother, and no sooner than she hits the seat of the truck, she starts the interrogation. So, did you find out anything? Yeah, babe, we did. So my grandfather fills her in on everything that we found out on the ride home. We get almost to their driveway, and there's a sheriff's car there. What in the world? What's done happened now? I don't know. My grandfather pulls up, rolls the window down, and the sheriff's deputy says, Sir, you're going to turn around and go back down the way you came. Son, I just live right there. I'm looking at my driveway. What do you mean I got to turn around? Oh, I'm sorry. You're going to have to hold up here. We've got some detectives going through your backyard. Detectives? What the hell do you mean going through my backyard? No, sir. You need to get the sheriff down here. Sir, I said you need to get the sheriff down here. Keep me off my own property? I don't think so. So we sat there while the deputy went and radioed for the sheriff. Seemed like forever, but I don't think it was but about actually 20 minutes went by, and the sheriff come walking down the road. The sheriff walks up to my granddaddy and says, What seems to be the problem? Well, the problem is, this man right here won't let me on my own property. Are you Mr. Harold? Yes, I am. Mr. Harold, do you know a Mr. Bennett? Well, of course I do. We grew up together. Why? Well, you might want to leave the young boy and your wife there in the truck. Come go with me. My grandfather looks at me and my grandmother and says, I'll be back in just a little bit. Opens the door and gets out and follows the sheriff. They get a little ways up the road away from the truck. The sheriff asked my grandfather, When was the last time you seen Mr. Bennett? Yesterday. Why? I got another question. What happened to your barn? Well, we had some incidents out here with what? Well, I don't rightly want to say right this minute. Well, you're going to have to come up with something better than that. Well, just hold on a second. Why are y'all out here now? And why all these questions about Mr. Bennett? What's going on? Why are there detectives on my property? Well, we got a call from Mr. Bennett's wife that there was an incident last night where some prowlers were going around the house, and he went out to investigate. She heard a loud scream, a gunshot, a growl, and no Mr. Bennett. Exactly what you mean, no Mr. Bennett? Well, he hasn't been seen since he went outside. Now I'm going to ask you again, what happened to your barn? Well, Sheriff, if I told you, frankly, I don't think you'd believe me. Then you'd probably lock me up for being crazy. Well, what I do know is a lot of this stuff around here isn't making any sense. What do you mean? Well, I have a shotgun that looks like somebody broke it in half. I've got your barn that looks like the back end was blew out. I have blood all over the place around your barn. Yes, but that came from my animals. Oh, I can understand that. But I also have bloody clothes that Miss Bennett identified that Mr. Bennett was wearing when he went outside last night, that lead from the back of his place all the way through to the back of your place. Bloody clothes. You don't think something? I don't know what to think. But I'm fixing to send men down into those woods to see if we can't figure it out. No, you can't do that. What do you mean I can't do that? Well, I'm going to have to tell you whether you think I'm crazy or not. So here it goes. You know that boy that was brought into the hospital? Him and his 3 friends about a week ago? Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Mr. Lancaster's nephew, Mark. Yes, that's him. What about him? Mr. Lancaster said him and his 3 friends went up there to do a little deer hunting. Deer hunting? Yes, I know. That's the same thing I said. Well, they shot a deer and it went off back in this deep hollow that's back there. We call Booger Hollow. Booger Hollow? Yeah, I'll get to that in just a little bit. Well, what does this have to do with Mr. Bennett? Well, I think they're tied together. See, them boys, when they went down there to get that deer, Mr. Bennett's nephew said they heard rustling in the bushes, and they thought it was the deer. So one of the boys went up in there to get it. Well, they heard him scream, a gunshot, and then this other noise they couldn't explain. Yes, that's the same story he told us. Yeah, that might be the story he told you, but I don't think they shot no bear. I think it was a booger. A booger? What the hell is that? Well, that's the name they gave these creatures about 50 years ago when my dad and some of his neighbors had run in for this creature. It killed several men and a lot of livestock. I've never heard of no such thing. Well, you may not have ever heard of it, but if you've seen your men down in those woods, as close as it is to getting dark, you won't never see them again. Just then, one of the sheriff's deputies that had been searching along the wood line come running up. Sheriff, you got to come see this. You're not going to believe this. What is it? Sir, you just got to come see this. I'm not going to tell you. You need to see this with your own eyes. Okay, settle down. So the sheriff, me, and the deputy walk to the wood line, and they find this big bloody spot. And right in the middle of it is a 22-inch human foot track. What the hell is that? The sheriff said. That's the track of a booger. You mean a Bigfoot? Y'all call it a booger? A Bigfoot. Sheriff, you can call it whatever you want. That's just the track of one. There's a bunch of these things. According to my daddy and the man I talked to earlier that helped him on his farm years ago, and he won't come back out here. What the hell are we supposed to do? We've got a man missing. We've got to search for him. We can't leave him out there. Look, Sheriff, nobody wants to find Mr. Bennett more than I do. Like I told you, he's one of my best friends. We grew up together. Been my neighbor since we were boys. But we got to think about this. We go off in there with no plan, no idea. None of us may come back. Well, I know one thing. It's getting dark, and I don't want to be out here with it being dark. So we need to get a plan together and hurry up, figure out what we're going to do. Well, the first thing is we're fixing to call in some help. That sounds like a damn good idea to me. So who do we call? Well, I hope you listeners have enjoyed the second part of Booger Valley. The next one will be coming out very soon. And don't forget to subscribe and like. Leave any comments you want. If you want to contact me, you can do so at the vault at yahoo.com.